What's going on, everybody on YouTube? Steve here, Rake and Profit. We got a green room show going down tonight. I got my boys with me. We got the Bonafide Hustler right over there coming from Austin, Texas. We got the Steps to Success YouTube channel, Rob Izad in the house, coming to you internationally from Canada with a bunch of toilet paper behind him. That's an inside joke. We'll have him share what that painting is all about behind him. But how you guys doing tonight? Chris, what's going on, man? How's Austin, Texas treating you?
Austin, Texas is great. We have it was an amazing sunny day today, around 65 degrees. Very, very anxious to get into the show and look at our guest.
Let's look at him. Look at him. He's right there. Rob, what's going on, man? How are you?
What's going on, guys? Nice of you to mention the painting behind me. Now everyone is like, what is this guy talking about? The toilet paper behind him. But yeah, it's, when I bought this condo, one of my buddies as a gift, he said, what do you want? I said, make me a nice painting. And he ended up making me this portrait that's made out of toilet paper. So I've had it here, since I bought it, and I love it.
I love it too. It looks awesome. So in today's or tonight's show, we're going to be talking about a bunch of different topics. We're going to be interviewing Rob. Rob is an Amazon seller. He owns a brick and mortar store. He develops and does real estate. So we're going to be covering pretty much real estate and Amazon FBA. We're going to be talking about his journey doing $15 million before the age of 30 years old. So if you guys are interested in Amazon FBA, private label, getting started with real estate, we're going to kind of split it up 50-50 between real estate and Amazon FBA. But we got a lot of really cool information. And again, if you guys do enjoy the show, hit the like button. If you want to follow Rob with Steps to Success, he's got about 1,500 subscribers. He's somewhat of a new channel. Puts out awesome content. Be sure to follow him. But Chris, let me pass it off to you, man. What's going on?
That's right. So as Raken said, we'll get right into our guest, but today we're going to be covering building wealth building wealth through real estate investing and Amazon FBA. So we're going to be starting with the real estate questions, and we're going to go with Rob on this one. Hey, Rob, so why real estate? Like I said, 50-50, like Steve said, 50-50 of this show is going to be real estate. So we're going to lead it off with the real estate section. So why did you invest in real estate? When did you start?
So I went to a top business school here in Canada, and usually when people graduate out of this school, they either go into investment banking or consulting. It's mostly finance-related jobs just because of the pay. You start with that 6 figures, and that's why people go to business school. So when I was in school, I worked for this construction building material store, and I got to learn the business. And it was a smaller city close to Toronto, and I learned the business really well. And when I graduated, I had 2 choices: either go into finance or start something on my own. And I decided to start my own journey of entrepreneurship. And I opened my first store after graduating.
So what was in this first store exactly?
So what we sell is building materials. So basically what you would need to build a house. So everything from the framing stage all the way to finishing products. So drywall, insulation, steel studs, wood studs, everything that goes into interior finishing of a house.
Okay, so here in the States, we have places like Lowe's. We have a place like Home Depot, Ace Hardware. So you're saying you opened up a store that is just as large as those kind of stores, or no?
So, yes. So not as large. So I'll give you a difference. So we have Home Depot's, Lowe's stores here in Canada. The difference between what we do and what Home Depot does is Home Depot kind of caters to the end consumer, so home buyers. We deal with contractors, builders, and developers. So we have an added service level that we have to our product. So for example, our customers are someone who would build a house from scratch. And we have people that take the material to their house and distribute it throughout the house. Home Depot doesn't do that. Home Depot delivers everything to your garage and they leave. So we have, we have more heavy equipment. We have trucks. We have a lot of stuff that Home Depot doesn't have and doesn't want to invest into because they try to sell everything, right? So yeah, we're kind of a niche inside the selling building material market.
Most of the people that come out of an MBA or business school or something like that, they try to get the 6-figure job and everything like that. But you go ahead and open a building materials store.
I know, man. Everyone tells me.
How'd you do it? Like with the cash inflow and all this kind of stuff. How did that work out?
Everyone tells me, he says, Rob, You could have done anything, and out of doing anything, you went and did a construction job, which is not your personality at all. Like, you know, you should have been doing something in finance. And I said, you know, I like building things now, and you know, it's entrepreneurship for me. It's really fascinating because I can't do one thing for a long time, and I always like change. And you know, starting this led to me doing a couple other things. So it's always growing, and I'm always doing something different, and that's what fascinates me. So that's why I love doing what I'm doing. And you know, when I opened my first store, within the next 3 years, I opened up 2 more stores. And you know, I got to meet more builders. I got to meet developers. So I actually do full condos now. So 30-story condos. I do the building material from start to finish, which is pretty amazing.
That is crazy. So I still want to backtrack a little bit. Steve, help me understand this too. But you come out of business school. Where did the initial cash outlay to get the loan even come from? Had you been saving up religiously for this kind of thing?
No, not at all, man. When I graduated, I spent the first 6 months applying for loans. I needed, like, I did this business plan that was about 24 pages long, and you know, I applied everywhere through the bank. And there was this one program that's called CYBF, which stands for Canadian Youth Business Foundation. And what they do is they give you a grant and a loan for you to use for young entrepreneurs to start their business. And I started my business with a $40,000 loan.
Wow! Which, so you built a Lowe's equivalent for 40 grand. What is going? What's crazy, man?
It was crazy, man. And you know, when initially I started, I was like, for example, I'll talk about one product that I was doing. So I was selling drywall, and I was bringing it from the States for about $4 a piece, and Home Depot was selling it for $14.99 for the same sheet. So I put and I had no idea what I was doing. I put an ad on Kijiji, and people started calling me. The 40,000 loan that I took from CYBF, I ended up paying it back, I think, within the first few months. And after that, I had so much cash in hand that I had no idea what to do with. And you know, and you know, people would go to Home Depot because, as you know, Home Depot price matches. So they would go to Home Depot. They'd be like, you know, you're selling this for $14.99, but Rob here is selling it for $8.99. What's going on? And they're like, well, is it the same brand? And I'm like, yeah, here's the same brand. It's the picture of it. So it was crazy, you know. It was very interesting when I started. So, you know, that's how I grew, and you know, it's been doing really well ever since. That's why I love construction. It's really nice. So.
Okay, but you don't actually mess with it. You're never holding anything, doing any demo. You don't do any of that anymore.
I don't do any of that. So from the construction supply store, I don't do any of that. So what happens during a typical day you know, in the store is people call, place orders. I have my guys in the back. They put it with the forklift onto the truck, or you know, different equipment we have. So we have what's called the boom truck, which is, you know, the trucks with the crane.
Yeah.
That picks up your material and puts it into a second story or a third story. So that's what we do. We just deliver material to job sites. So whether if it's a condo or if it's a custom house or whatever the case may be.
Okay. So now let's backtrack real quick. If you're a complete beginner, what's the best type of investment property to get started with? You better not say a construction company. But
no. So the way it worked for me is I started from the construction company. And by dealing with contractors and builders, I would at the same time have homeowners come to me, and they'd ask me, they'd be like, Rob, can you help me, you know, do this basement for me? And because I had contacts to contractors, I got started into doing contracting as well. So I would just call the contractors that buy from me already, be like, hey, I have a job. Can you go quote it for me? He would quote it for, say, $10,000, and I would tell the customer, listen, I can do this for you for $14,000. And the customers really like that concept because a lot of contractors, as you know, they're from back of a truck. They don't have a physical location, right? Especially the smaller ones. So the customer always paid a premium for that fact. You know, it's a place that they can come to, they can pay, they know that you're going to be around should anything go wrong. So I got started doing the development side, you know, from the small side, and I grew that into doing my own builds, start to finish.
Okay. So for the beginners that are coming in, most beginners would start with an investment property being a house, correct? Most.
Yeah. So if you guys want to do those kind of properties, I would suggest buying a good house that you can improve something of, something small, whether if it's a kitchen, if it's redoing the floors, whatever the case may be, and flipping it for a profit. It's you can make a lot of money doing it that way. Again, it depends on the property values and where it is that you're doing it. So, but there is huge potentials that way, and slowly you start to grow, and it's just like any business. It takes time.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to scale.
Okay, so help me rank this. If you're a beginner, should you be looking at flipping a house at first, a condo at first, a townhouse? What would you think?
I would do an older house in a good area, just because the demand is there. Condos tend to go up a lot lower than homes. So people love the fact that it's a detached home and you own the piece of land rather than you just paying the maintenance fees. Because what happens with a lot of condos is over time, the reason it doesn't go up as much in value is because it starts to get old and the maintenance cost starts to rise. So it has a factor on how much the appreciation is year over year. So I always recommend getting into freehold structures, whether if it's a townhouse that's freehold or if it's a detached home that's a freehold. But try to own land, because land is scarce. And that's something that you want to hold on to.
If someone wanted to get started with real estate without any knowledge of fixing up a house or assessing properties, do you have a place that you liked, or a book that you read that inspired you, or a website, or even a podcast you listened to?
I actually ended up getting my real estate license as well. So I do all three. And there are a lot of people that have money that want to get started on, flipping real estate. And one of the things that you can do when you're going to put, say, a bid on a house is you can actually inspect the house and you can actually take a contractor with you. So if you know a contractor or someone who can actually help you, tell you the things that you need to improve on for the house, it really helps you, because like I've had homes that I've listed and people came with a contract, and the contractor, at the same time that they're looking around the house, he says, listen, this house, I can fix it up for 20,000. And if you fix it up for 20,000, you can sell it for another 50,000. So right off the bat, you know what you're working with. So, it's really easy if you reach out to a few people, because everyone wants to help you out, because they're getting a job fixing the work and you're getting the profit after fixing the work. So it's a win-win situation for everyone.
Hey, let me ask you a question, Rob. Let me jump in, Chris. So, to find a deal, say you're a beginner and you're looking for your first, investment property, whether it's to flip or maybe to hold, how do you do it? Are you searching the MLS? Do you suggest hiring a real estate agent and telling them maybe the criteria of what you're looking for?
I suggest
this hiring with no experience.
I understand. So I suggest you hire the best real estate agent in that area. So, for example, in Toronto, we have different areas, and it's divided. Like it starts from, say, C1 and it goes to C15, and each one is a portion within the city. And each region of the city has one real estate agent that probably owns 50–60% market share in that area. These are the agents that get really good deals, and they're inclined to help you buy it as well, because they get to keep commission from both sides. So for them, it's in their benefit to help you make a good investment and make more money, through the referrals in the end. So I always recommend reaching out to the best agent, because they can actually get you really good deals rather than just, hiring a real estate agent through a friend or a family. So that's my recommendation.
Person, though? Like, how do you know who the best is?
They have signs everywhere. So for example, in Toronto, they have signs on school buses, on bus stops, advertising on TV. It's really easy to find out who the top agents are. And I'm sure it's the same. Even like you go to California, I think they have a show that shows the top 5 or the top 10 best agents. So it's not too hard to find out. You can even Google their names. It comes up.
Yeah, he's right. If you find a certain neighborhood or area of town, all you got to do is even drive through it, and you'll see a lot of the same signs from the correct people that he's talking about. Yeah. That's very interesting. So if you, okay, so how do you, so that's one of the ways you can find your first deal is to go with the best agent, and that's one of the strategies behind. What are some of the biggest mistakes to avoid on your first deal?
You want to make sure that you do an inspection on the house before you buy it. You know, never ever buy a house by just looking at the outside, because there is a lot of stuff that can be wrong, you know, from inside that you can't see, that you need a professional to look at. And, you know, some things are really hard. For example, cracks around the house, you know, outside on the bricks. You know, there are some kinds of, it's called tube and knob wiring. That's really old school. So some insurance companies don't insure it. So you need to hire a professional, and the fee is not that much. It's like $200-300. And they come, they spend half a day there with you. They actually give you a full sheet of check marks, you know, what it is that they didn't like, that, you know, you can ask the seller, or, you know, some things that you have to improve on. So that way you get a full idea of how much money you need to spend on the property before selling it.
Right. It's kind of like when you buy a car, you can take it to a mechanic, you know, and it's
Yeah,
wise
exactly.
to spend $70 to have the car in the air on a lift so you can get under it, see if any oil's coming out anywhere,
Yeah.
things like that. So I get what he's saying. It's the same kind of concept. So that's definitely one of the big mistakes, because when can something get really, let's say someone just falls in love with a house, they fall in love with a neighborhood, and maybe the person that was supposed to oversee the whole thing, or you know, the checkup kind of guy, misses some things. What are some of the scariest? I mean, there's foundation problems, right? Those are really costly, right?
Yeah, so you can have foundation problems, you can have mold problems that can get really bad. So, you know, it becomes costly. Like at the end of the day, you have insurance, right? So you can always get it fixed. It's just when you're buying a property, you're buying it as an investment property in this case, right? So you want to maximize your profits, and you don't want to have to spend money on it. So, you know, that's why it's really important for you to actually spend time, because it's an investment property and it's not something that you're attached to. So you want to do your full homework before jumping into it. So, you know, at the same time, it depends on, you know, what kind of money you're playing with. So usually when the homes get more expensive, it becomes typical for you to get the inspection done.
Okay. With some of these houses, do you own houses right now that people are living in?
I do. I'll give you guys a really funny story that you're going to like this story. So I had my real estate license for the past 2-3 years, and I had my license, and I always, you know, at the end of every night, I would look for properties to buy. And I found this really nice property right by the water, and it was sitting on a big lot, and, you know, everything on it looked really good. And I called the agent and I said, I want to see this property. And she said to me, she said, Rob, you know, it's kind of late right now, and I can't show it to you. I'm busy. I called her back. I said, listen, just find someone in your firm, in your office, that can come and show it to me. She calls me back again. She says, yeah, no one can come right now. So I told her, I said, listen, I am willing to use you as my agent. So you're going to get double the commission if you come and show it to me. She said, let me call you back. She calls me back within 5 minutes. She says, Rob, I'll be there in half an hour.
Jeez.
Let me tell you this. This house was listed at 1.5 million 3 years ago. I met up with her. The owners of this house were these, the husband was a surgeon, and the wife was like a stay-at-home mom. And this house was so nicely maintained. The agent, to get that double commission, she came to me. She says, Rob, if you really want to get this house, the bottom price that I can get it for you is 1.1 million.
Whoa.
But what I want you to do is I want you to come back with the price of 900,000, and we'll work it up to 1.1, and I'll get it closed at 1.1. So I'm thinking on my side, I'm like, this agent must really want the 5% commission for this house, because she's going to walk away with, you know, 60, 70,000 in commission. And she knows the chances of her double ending it. And that's what it means. Double ending is when you're the listing and the buying agent. It's very low for her if she loses me. So what she did is, throughout the period that I put a bid in at 900 up until the closing at 1.1, she made sure no one else could go see this house. It was the craziest story. Listen, guys, Steve, you have no idea. So I ended up purchasing this house for 1.1, and usually when the bank gives you a mortgage, they always send an appraiser to go appraise it. And whenever an appraiser goes to appraise a property, they always underestimate the full value of the property in case anything happens. So the appraisal came back at 1.3, and my banker calls me. She says, "Rob, how did you get this property?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" She says, "I've never seen in my past 10 years of selling any properties in Toronto for someone to buy a property that's under appraised value, unless, you know, it's a family member selling it to a family member." So I told him, I'm like, "You don't want to know the story. All I'm going to tell you is that, you know, it worked for me." So, you know, that's why sometimes you always want to see how you can benefit from a deal, because some agents are really inclined to make a deal go through, even though it's unethical and you can actually lose your license. You always want, like, you know, you want to be smart when you're making a decision on purchasing a property, and it's an investment property, right? So, you know, I just played the cards right, and it ended up working really well for me. So not only did I get a great property at a great price, the homes on this street, which is a court, are half the size in terms of lot size of this one house. So when I bought this house, I went to the city and I asked the city, I said, you know, I'm looking at all these properties and I want to divide this lot into two so I can put two homes on it. And I submitted the permits and I ended up getting the approvals to put two homes on this one lot. So now right off the bat, just off the land value, I made an extra $1 million off the second house. And the same house, I can still probably sell it for, you know, 1.3, 1.4. It's crazy.
That is nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's one of my best stories. Never happened, but it's a crazy story.
So you have that land right now?
So I do have it right now. I have a great tenant that's paying me about $6,000 a month for it. And, you know, another benefit of owning investment properties is that you can expense the interest that you pay for the mortgage. So, for example, say you're paying a 3% mortgage rate on $1 million. That's $30,000 a year. So that $30,000, you get it back when you file your taxes at the end of the year. And on top of that, any other expenses that you have, you know, anything breaks down, anything that, you know, goes wrong, again, those are added expenses. So, you know, there's a lot of benefits with owning real estate properties.
That's cool. Wow.
That is interesting. So did you hire a management company now? I mean, you're not obviously hands-on with this property or any of your properties, it seems. Do you hire management companies, and do you have any tips if so?
I do not have any management company just because I own a construction material store and I deal with contractors on a daily basis. So if anything goes wrong, I just call up one of my contractors. I say, hey, you know, I have so-and-so house, you know, needs a plumbing problem. Can you go take care of it? But even
cool.
like,
that's really cool.
He double ends it, Raken. He's double ending, see?
That's nice. But you know, as long as you own 1, 2, 3 investment properties, you don't need to hire a property management company to take care of your properties, because you have time to go see the problem. At the same time, in today's world, it's so easy to call up a small contractor or find a plumber online and just give them a call and they go do the work for you. There's no need for you to hire someone, pay them an additional 3, 4, 5% fee to take care of a property for you, right? The only time those kind of things make sense is if you're you're investing in a small, say, multi-unit residential property that's like a 12-unit, and you really don't have time to take care of it, and you have cash flow coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would recommend.
That's cool. I listen to a lot of Grant Cardone, and he mentions, he actually advises a lot of beginners to stay away from like single families and stick with like apartment buildings, 4, 8, 12, 16. What are your thoughts on that?
So Grant Cardone is one of my absolute favorite real estate investors. What he says makes 100% sense in US, because in US you can buy a multi-unit, property for 2, 3, 4 million. In Toronto or in Canada, the laws are, way different than the US, and the property values are a lot more expensive. So with the same price that, you know, you can invest 4 million into a property in US and say get a 12 unit property, you can only buy, say, a 4,000 square foot home. You can't buy any kind of you know, multi-unit property here. Wow. So that's the difference. It's really different. Yeah, it's crazy. So like, you will sell an average custom home here for 4 million, and that same 4 million will do probably easily twice as much return in US had you, you know, should you invest it there. So he's right.
Wow. Have you ever seen Drake in Toronto? Yes or no?
I have.
You have? No, you haven't.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Where'd you see Drake?
Yeah, Drake. You see him a lot of times, but if you drive in Yorkville in the summertime, you see him. And he has a house that he's building with this really famous designer. His name is Ferris, and this guy builds like extravagant mansions. I'm talking about 30, 40,000 square foot mansions. And Drake is building this huge mansion on this street. It's called Bridle Path. And this home is probably between 20 to 30 million bucks. So if you drive there, you'll get to see him. And this house is insane. It's like, you know, it's something else. But yeah,
you hooking him up with those supplies, man? You hooking him up with that cheap drywall?
No, man. This guy, you know,
come on.
Listen, Steve, let me tell you this. Like, you know, so what you do for a custom house, and I'm talking about a house that's 5 to 10 million, you put drywall in between the joists. Drake is putting concrete, not drywall, concrete, wow, like cement, because of his studios and all these fancy things. Like, he's building, I'm telling you, he's building a monster. Like, you know.
That's crazy, man. So wait, when you see him, is he just walking around the street? Does he have like a pumpkin spice latte in his hand? Or is he skating by you in his Lamborghini? Like,
no, this guy has cars following him around. So it's not just his car that you see. So you see a car in front of him and a car behind him. Like, even if you search it on YouTube, there are people that will actually block you off. Even if it's a red light, they'll just go through it just because no one can get behind him or in front of him. So
dang.
Yeah, see, this guy's like a celebrity here, man.
I see. I don't think they're ever going to do that for a construction company owner. But if you're a rap artist, you can stop traffic, man.
Yeah.
If you try to stop traffic, my guess is they're gonna be like, "Get out of there, dude! Who are you?" And you're like, "I'm Rod Izad." They're like, "I don't care. Get out of here." Anyway,
no, it's crazy. Yeah.
So last thing on the real estate questions, real quick. Any tips for financing the very first deal? You come out of, you know, whatever, first time home buyer, whatever. You want to finance this first deal. You got any tips for the people out there?
So, again, you know, we've had a real spike in property values in Canada for the past 2 years. It's kind of hard right now. If you are from Canada, you want to get into real estate. Like, some homes have doubled in price within a year. So you're seeing double digits to triple digit growth year over year. So
why is it going so quick, Rob?
So what happened was there are two major cities in Canada, Vancouver and Toronto. Vancouver is filled with a lot of international buyers, and they pushed up the prices so high that no one could afford to live within the city. And what the government did in Vancouver is they imposed a 15% foreign tax. So that means that if you're buying a $3 million property, you have to pay the government an additional $450,000 on top of that to buy that property. So when they did that to Vancouver, all these foreign buyers, they said, you know what? You don't want us to invest our money in Vancouver. We're going to go to Toronto. So the same thing started happening in Toronto. You see property values of, say a property that's worth $1 million go up $2,000 to $3,000 a day. So, you know, us as real estate agents, we would tell our buyers, be like, Mr. Buyer, if you wait another month buying this property, be prepared to pay an extra $90,000 on top of the asking price today. So the prices were going up so crazy. It was insane. It was crazy.
Like Bitcoin. It's the Bitcoin market, man.
Yeah, it was the Bitcoin. It is. If you Google real estate Toronto, you'll see some really crazy stories. And, you know, it was going up again at such a dramatic rate, just like Vancouver, that after some time, the government came again. They said, guys, all the foreign buyers, If you buy anything in Toronto, you have to pay 15% tax. So again, these buyers that can afford to buy $3, $4, $5 million homes and they only live in it for a month or two out of the year, they don't care if if their house is empty. What ended up happening is a lot of buyers that actually wanted to own real estate ended up getting stuck in between. So right now the prices are still going up, but not as much. But it's really hard for you to afford paying mortgage on a $2 million house with an average income. So it's become kind of expensive here. But in US, there is so much opportunities that you can buy investment properties. And I was looking at some. You guys have a lot of loans that people will give you as long as you put a minimum, say 10-20% down on a property, and you can show the bank that this is what I'm expecting to do. If you give them a business plan, it shouldn't be too hard getting a loan. So that's what I would recommend. Don't start too big, and grow one step at a time. But it's easy to scale in real estate, just like any other business.
Okay. Sweet. So we're gonna switch some gears into the Amazon FBA questions real quick. Are you ready for that, Rob?
Let's do it, man.
Okay, cool. All right. So hold on one second. And my house just appreciated $55. Cool. All right. Anyways. Anyway, I was like waiting like 5 minutes to do that joke. Okay, so let's talk about the Amazon FBA real quick. And you deal with private label on Amazon FBA. Why private label? There's wholesale, there's retail arbitrage, there's liquidations, there's all kinds of stuff to deal with Amazon FBA as the primary vehicle to move the product. So why private label?
It has the most amount of profits and the least amount of headaches.
Okay. So least amount of headaches, most amount of private. Were you successful with private label right into the game, like immediately?
Right into the game, yeah. So I like to do a lot of research when I'm going into something, and I always go with my gut feeling. And what I tell everyone is, if you do your homework and you have the margins necessary to sell, no matter what happens to the price, you will sell because the demand is there. The prices might fall, but the demand is there. The demand is not going to vanish as long as you're not doing a seasonal product that's near the end of the season. So as long as you do your homework and you track the numbers and you make sure everything that you found actually matches, what you found, there is no reason for you to lose money. Versus in retail arbitrage, you have to go look for products, you have to spend time at retail stores or whatever the case may be. So it's a lot of investment on your time that you have to put. And for me, it really works well with my business model because when I'm behind the desk in the office, I get to do everything. Right? So I don't have to talk to people. I don't have to do any, you just basically send a message to the supplier. I want so-and-so. This is the price that I want. You like it? Yes. You don't like it? I'll go to someone else. Here's the money. You send them the money online. Everything gets done, right? Same with the, if there is refunds on Amazon side, Amazon takes care of everything. The customer has a question, you answer it online. So everything is done on the computer. You don't have to move. You don't have to deal with anything. You don't have to store with anything. So one of the things with my business, my construction supply store, is I have to have a physical warehouse. I have to hire people to move the material. I have to store the products. I have to pay hydro, all these bills. Amazon FBA, you pay nothing. You're just private labeling your products and selling it. So it's such an amazing business and a cool concept. So that's why I do private labeling.
Okay, so if someone wants to find their first product, how would you suggest they find their first product? Some tools that they might need to be using, for example.
So what I was recommending to a lot of people that reached out to me is Jungle Scout. It still is a very good software. Sometimes the numbers are a bit overestimated or sometimes underestimated. It's not accurate. But like I mentioned, there are ways that you can actually track those numbers from the sellers selling that product to see if they reflect truly what you're being shown from those product research tools. There is another one that just got released not too long ago, Viral Launch, which is again kind of similar to Jungle Scout. It has some additional tools like charts, graphs, and trends that it shows you. But all of these are just tools that gives insight on what kind of products you should look at. You should never really go off from these tools by itself. You should always do your homework. So it's just like any business. You do your homework, and the better you become at it compared to your competition, the better you do.
Okay. So what would you say has to do with a good product? Like, what would be some of the ultimate criteria when someone wants to make their first product? You know, list out maybe 3 to 5 things that makes a good product. What's that criteria?
So my criteria is you want the products to at least be doing, say, 3,000 a month in revenue from the top 10 sellers. So if I see that one seller is selling $500 with 5 reviews, and another seller has 500 reviews and is doing 20,000, I stay away from it. I don't like to see a disparity that large in between the sellers. So I like to see a proportionate amount of reviews, revenues between all the sellers. So that's one thing I look for. The second thing is the price range that the product sells for. You don't want it to be too low, just because the Amazon fees, pay-per-click, and giveaways that you do is gonna eat through your margins. At the same time, you don't want it to be too high, because if it is too high, then you're gonna have a harder time selling as many units, right? So you want it to be kind of in that sweet spot in between a certain range of price that is gonna do really well for your customers. And at the same time, you don't want your customers to second guess buying your product. So you wanna be in the right range of prices selling those products.
What is that right range typically? Is it 20 to 40, 10 to 30, 30 to 50?
I would say 15 to 50.
15 to 50. Okay, so that's kind of like the magic part.
Magic number, and you want to make sure that you have at least as a minimum 35% net profit margin after your product cost and shipping.
Okay, so that would be a good place to start when you're trying to make the decisions.
Yeah,
I like how you said, like, you don't like a market that's spread so thin. Like, one person's crushing it, the other person's only doing $300 a month. You don't like those kind of markets. You like markets that have activity and many sellers. Is that what I heard you say?
Not many sellers. So I'll give you an idea. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have many sellers. So let's say that you find a product that's well known, and you have.
Give an example. Give an example of all this stuff. That way we can really hit it home here. What's an example?
Let's do an example. So I did a video with Steve. I went over a product that I was selling that I actually shared with my audience, which is a camera bulb. And if you go on Amazon.com and you search for camera bulb, it's basically this camera that has a bulb attached to it that you get to see your surroundings, and you get to hear and talk through the bulb. It's a really cool product. But anyways, there is 20 pages of sellers selling this product.
That's a lot.
A camera bulb? What did I hear? Steve, what did he
screw it in? Like, it's a light bulb.
Okay.
And it's like a Wi-Fi, so like you could look through your phone and like see your house.
Whoa,
and, like, talk through
really?
it and stuff, so you can be like, "Hey, Whitney, cook up some burgers."
A camera bulb. That's interesting. Okay.
So whatever. So for example, let's say we'll give that example just to go off by. When you search for the broadest keyword in this term is camera bulb. It might be other people might search other terms for it, but the broadest keyword for it is camera bulb. You want to make sure that the top 10 sellers that are selling that product are all doing the numbers that I mentioned. So you want to see a consistency of people selling that product in terms of revenue. So you know that the product, before you look into it any further, has demand. If it doesn't, and those numbers are not consistent, that means that there is a problem. Okay. So you want to stop right there. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be 10 sellers selling a product. So for example, I have this one product that I found about a month and a half ago. I'm buying this product for $4 and I'm selling it for $34 on Amazon. And there is 3 other sellers selling it. And, I saw that the 3 other people that are selling it, again, they have consistent sales, consistent revenue, the numbers checked out. And I tracked those numbers and it made sense to me, and I put it, and I ended up making the same amount of money as them. So, you just want to make sure that whatever product you're doing has a consistency between the sellers selling that product. It can be 5 sellers, it can be 20 sellers. If there's 20 sellers and everyone is selling the same amount of revenue, it means that the demand is there for those people to be doing the same amount of revenue as each other, right?
So back to the bulb, you had 20 pages. That's like 200 to 300 sellers. If say there's 200 or 300 sellers of this specific bulb, just to clarify what you said, but the top 10 are all fitting that criteria, are you still investing in it?
I would invest in it because there is a lot of stuff that I can do better than them that they don't know about. So the nice thing about private label is 90% of the people that do private label, they don't know what they're doing. So
what would you do? Like, what are a few things you might do to beat out some of those people? What are some common mistakes these private labels are making?
For example, you know, a lot of people, you know, I'll go by a few examples just from the video we did last time, Steve. So I had a few people reached out to me. They ended up buying other people's courses, and they messaged me. They said, you know, I paid so much for this course. The guy was supposed to help me. I invested $4,000 in this product, but in the last month and a half, I haven't sold any. I said, well, let me see, what's the problem? I look at his listing. He has 2 bullet points on his product listing. Amazon gives you 5 bullet points, so you want to maximize those 5. You don't want to use 2. The product description is 1 gigantic paragraph. So you want to make sure that you bold it, you put breaks in there so it looks proper.
Format it, yeah.
Okay.
Like you want to format it the right way. Another thing is a lot of people don't know how to use the backend keywords properly, so people can actually find you by searching the keywords that you have. It's very important, your backend keywords, what you put for a product. Another thing is you want to make sure that you have reviews before you start spending money on advertising. I see so many times people spending a ton of money on advertising, and they message me, they say, why am I not generating any sales? It's because you pay money, the person lands on your page, they see no social proof, no reviews. They say, why would I buy this guy's product when someone else is selling the same price and he has 500 reviews or he has 10 reviews? Obviously, you buy the other product. So it's a lot of stuff that goes, you know, in it. But once you know those stuff and you know how to capitalize on it, you can improve versus, you know, the other 90% of the people.
Yeah, why do those 90% of the people? Because I mean, I think if you're private labeling something on Amazon, you're already thinking outside the box. You're an entrepreneur probably, or this is your side thing. You got a primary job, but like you're already thinking out of the box. How can 9 out of 10 people fail to execute something?
It's really hard. Trust me, Chris. So for example, a lot of people, they get pictures from the supplier on Alibaba. They all use the same pictures. You can go on Fiverr, pay someone 10, 15 bucks. They will create you 5 photos for your listing. That's going to be 10 times better than the other 9 people. That's a $15 investment that's going to generate you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars just off of one product. And it's a no-brainer, but people don't want to invest time. They don't want to differentiate. They don't want to do anything. And that's why 90% of the people don't generate that. And a lot of people, when they hear, oh, so-and-so guy is doing 100,000 a month, or so-and-so guy is doing $500,000 a month, they think that this guy must be a genius to be doing $500,000 a month. It's not. You don't have to be a genius. You just have to have business sense, and you just have to have an eye to differentiate your product, right? It's just like you buying a house in one street. If you see 9 out of the 10 homes look similar as to one another, but one has something that stands apart and you like that feature, you're going to go for the 10th one. You're not going to buy the first 9.
Yeah. I got to think outside the box, Rick, and I'm going to split my house up in 4 houses now. I'm going to rent out 3 of them.
It's funny, though. It's funny what you mentioned, though, Rob, because I don't know if you know, but I used to be very active with Kindle publishing, and that's like kind of like private label. I was creating digital ebooks and selling them on the Amazon platform. So, you know, we'd have to come up with the topic, create the cover, the title, keywords, very similar to private label. Most people would do the same thing that you said. They would have a horrible cover, horrible keywords. It's almost like they would put all this effort into creating a product. And then the most important thing, which is creating the listing, it's the first thing you see. It's like they put no effort into it. It always amazed me.
Yeah, like and it makes such a huge difference when you differentiate. You guys have no idea the value of differentiating. So for example, this one product that I just mentioned to you a month and a half ago, I got my supplier at no cost just to change the packaging a little bit for me, just so I knew the other 3 sellers that were selling the same product. I wanted mine to look different, and I improved it a little bit. So Christmas time, as most of you guys know, the volume that you get in terms of sales goes up a lot. It could be as little as 2 to 5 times the normal amount of revenue. So I ended up selling over 1,000 pieces of this one product, and I got 0 returns so far.
Wow.
So
0 returns. And that's not normal. Usually you get returns because a lot of people buy these products as giftable items, especially this one that I did. and I've had no returns, which is crazy. So that's another reason that I really like selling within the $15 to $50 range, because when you buy a product for say $1 or under $1 or $2 and you sell it to someone and then it ends up being returned, it really kills your profit margin, especially if that product comes back as defective or something being wrong with it. So that's why I try to stay away from all those things.
Okay. So seems to be kind of like, it's like a taboo subject, almost like if you're a reseller and you talk about taxes, like no one kind of like wants to talk about it. Like, so you're doing private label and the issue with reviews comes up, right? And people are like, how do you get the reviews? And like, don't pay your friends and don't give it to your friends to do it because that's against the Amazon TOS. So
you want to do it.
Okay. So how do you get the reviews, the initial reviews? Do you give your friends some of these products? Like, how are you, what is the real way to do it, and how do you see other people really doing it? Like, what's the right way to do it and the way that most are doing it?
The wrong way to do it is for you to contact people that you don't trust, especially if it's a good product, just to get that review, because the chances of you having a really good product and someone else copying it is super high. So that's the last resort. What was the best way of doing it was getting a couple people who have bought on Amazon before, and Amazon has a policy that as long as someone has bought over $50 worth of goods on Amazon, they can leave any product for any seller and what's called an unverified review. And any product that you get, as long as you have 3, 5, 10 family members, you send them the link. You say, hey, can you go leave me an unverified review? And right off the bat, before you've even sold any products, you have that 5, 10 reviews, and you start spending money on pay-per-click and giveaways right away, and you start getting more tractions, more reviews, and you start selling it from your first day. So that is the best way of going about it.
Okay. So I assume that these family members also have probably seen the product. I know you've been working on it. Like,
no, they don't have to. No, you can like a lot of people that I send it to, I just say, hey, I have a friend that's selling this or whatever. Can you just go leave them a review? They go and do it just because you ask them to, right? Doesn't mean that you have to tell them that that's your business so someone else can copy it. But I'm just saying having friends helping you out is huge.
Okay. That was just always a question I want to know the answer to. Let's talk about so you're gonna get to a supplier, Alibaba, or what's the other one, Raken? AliExpress.
DHK, there's AliExpress.
Yeah. What are some of the important questions to ask a supplier during negotiation? Do you just go straight? Because you strike me as the kind of guy who's really good at negotiations, and you don't like to waste time going back and forth. So how do you, what are some of these key questions to ask a supplier in the negotiation process?
So there is a Chinese version of Alibaba that you can find some of your products on. You usually find those products a lot cheaper than the prices that you find on Alibaba. So right off the bat, you know what kind of prices you're playing around with. So if the salesperson on Alibaba gives you a high quote, whether if it's on shipping or on the product itself, you can call their bluff right away. Plus, if you're a beginner and you don't know these other websites and you're just messaging someone, you want to make sure that you message at least 3 or 5 suppliers, and not only ask them for a quote on the product, but ask them for multiple quotes on the shipping. You have no idea how many times I see people getting an okay price on the product, but getting an extremely high price on the shipping just because they did not ask for more than 1 quote. And the supplier said, you know what, since I'm not making as much money on the product, let me make my money back on the shipping. And the person would never know. And I see it happening all the time. So make sure that you do your homework.
So make sure you
get a shipping quote.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know what a good shipping price is? Sorry, Chris.
So you ask the supplier, you say, hey, can you give me a quote based on DHL, based on Pure Leader, based on FedEx? I want to compare all 3. So now they can't make up 3 separate quotes. They have to actually get a quote for you. On top of that, there is a website called Freightos, and you can just put in the information, the weight, the kind of product that you're bringing from China to US, and you get an instant quote online for that. So you get to compare the price that you got online with the 3 separate quotes that the supplier gave you. If the supplier tried to give you an overestimated number, you can tell them, be like, look, I have my own quote, this is it. and usually the salesperson, they don't like to lose sales, so they would give in. But you just have to make it show that you're not a beginner, because a lot of people send a very basic message to these agents. And just like a car salesman, when someone walks in, within the first 5 minutes, you're gonna know if that person knows how to negotiate and knows what he's talking about, knows what kind of car he wants and the price range that he should be paying, or if it's just a newbie coming in and he has no idea what he's doing.
Okay.
Good point.
So with the shipping, do you go directly to the warehouse, or do you use a freight forwarder? And if so, what is a freight forwarder, first of all? People might not know what this is.
Oh, freight forward is when you get the supplier to either give you the material via FOB, which is a port, it can be China or in US, or you know, you're basically doing export, which means that you're taking care of everything from the supplier's location, sending the goods to Amazon FBA's warehouse. So I don't recommend anyone using a freight forwarder. It's a lot of headache. It always makes sense for you to pay extra and getting it done, especially if you're starting out, because the extra amount of time and paperwork that you have to submit to your freight forwarder ends up taking more time out of you know, your day that you could be using for, you know, finding a better product, or, you know, improving your product, or better, you know, something else. So I always recommend you do what's called DDP, which is delivery duty paid, which means that you don't touch anything. You just hire, you know, you pay for the goods, you make sure it gets to Amazon warehouse, and you just focus on your business instead of, you know, trying to save $100 or, you know, whatever the case may be on the freight.
So in that case right there, you're not hiring a freight forwarder. One is going to be typically always used, right? So that means that you're just piggybacking on the supplier's freight forwarder, essentially.
Yeah, let them do everything. And, you know, these suppliers, just because of the amount of volume that they do with these freight companies, they have what's called a preferred freight. So if I was to call DHL and I would tell them I have, say, 1,000 pieces of camera bulbs I want to send from China to Amazon warehouse, they would give me a quote that's much more expensive than if the supplier called and got that price, just because of the volume that they do. So that's another reason that you want to have the supplier take care of everything for you, because it's really hard for you to get those rates.
So the supplier can actually get it done to where that product is going directly to Amazon here in Canada, for example, right? Or no?
Canada or US, exactly. You just
like
send
directly there, like you are
directly
visiting a port. You're not doing any of this kind of stuff.
You're not doing anything. You're not doing anything.
So it's direct, and I assume you've seen your prototypes, you've seen all the stuff, you've seen the final product, the packaging, everything.
Yeah. So a lot of times I actually don't ask for a sample. I just make the payment and have them send it direct. So what I usually do is I talk to the supplier, and you know, I add them on WhatsApp. I do a video call with them. They show me my product before it's sent, just so I can approve everything. And it saves me an additional, you know, 7 days of my time that I would have to wait for a sample, check it, make sure everything is okay. But again, that varies from person to person and your risk tolerance level. So, you know, for me, you know, having had multiple businesses, I kind of am a riskier person just because
I can tell.
I would be extremely impatient waiting for every sample of a good product that I find 7 days, 7 days. And at some point, it becomes a game that, you know, for you, that additional 7 days, even if, say, the product wasn't the best, you're not ordering a big quantity on your first order. So I always like to order a smaller set of for my test order, which is my first order. So if, say, for example, 500 units is what your top seller is doing per month, I would order 100 units just to get started with. And on my second day of me seeing the product sell as well as I had expected, I would place another 500. That way my 100 is going to last for that 1 week until I get the rest in.
Okay. I didn't know that it was that fast. Like you can get in talks with, you know, your supplier, which is typically overseas, right?
Yeah.
And they can have something to the Amazon warehouse within 7 days, you said? 7
days from shipping, yeah.
That's crazy. That doesn't even seem right.
And that's why private labeling is so good, because and that's the whole reason that I ordered a smaller test sample as my first order and forego the sample, because even the worst case scenario that can happen is the product is not as great as I had hoped, but I still sell it and I make my profit. And then I choose, do I want to stay within the product or do I want to forego and move on to the next one?
Okay.
Hey, let me jump in really quick, Chris, because I think this is important. For the people out there who aren't as risk tolerant as you, maybe they only have a couple $1,000 to their name. Would you suggest spending that $100, $150 to get an inspection company to look through all the product before it gets shipped off to the warehouse? Because I mean, imagine you buy 500 items and now each item's defective. Imagine all those returns and issues and 1 stars. I mean, I don't even know what would happen.
I wouldn't know. The reason is this. I always recommend the people that reach out to me to pay with trade assurance or PayPal. If anything is wrong with the product, whether if it gets into your customer's hands or if Amazon opens it and they mark it as defective, I would contact trade assurance or I would contact PayPal and I would be like, I paid for so-and-so product. It was not as described, and I would get 100% of my money back. So aside from that, these people that are selling on Amazon, they're gold suppliers. So for them to stay in business, they would have to sell the product as advertised. So if anything goes wrong, your money stays in your bank account. Nothing happens to your money. It's their reputation that's on the line. So,
but that's a lot of headaches to have to deal with, though, Rob, instead of just paying an inspection company right then and there. But again, I know your person. You don't want to wait. You don't want to wait for this.
Well,
I know it.
I look for their, how many transactions they've done in the past year, how much revenue they've done. So if you see a company that's done $20 to $50 million worth of goods, you kind of know that they know what they're doing. You're not gonna get garbage sent to Amazon warehouse. But if it's someone that, say, you see a 1-year gold supplier, 5 transactions in the last year and something is wrong, obviously you're gonna get a sample sent to you, or you are gonna hire, inspection company. Or in my case, I would do neither, and I would just not buy the product in the first time, because I would be like, it's not like, I know I like risk, but I don't like to buy from someone that has no, reputation next to the name.
But you're literally like finding the exact same item, right? Let's say in the case of
exact same item,
it's the exact same thing. So if they're selling it and they're if the reviews are good and everything's good, you can positively affirm like, hey, like it's gonna be good, right? It's the same product, right?
It's the exact same product. So even this camera bulb that I showed Steve on the last video, there is 5 other people selling it on the first page, exact same, like everything the same as mine. The packaging, the bulb, everything is the same. The only difference is mine says a different name as the seller name, theirs says a different name, but the product, everything stays the same, and we all do the same revenue.
And your keywords but your keywords might be different, right? So you're gonna try to optimize your stuff better, right?
My keywords are probably a lot better than theirs, just because I put in more time to it. So, you want to use merchant words, you want to do a reverse ASIN on the bestseller, you want to kind of go through those lists, see which one's converting well, you want to run an automatic math, see which ones you're spending more money on, which ones you should remove, which ones you should keep. So there's a lot of things that go on in the back end that a lot of sellers don't see. And that's what, makes you stand apart from your competitors. Those are things that, every day you keep an eye on to see how you can improve. And a lot of sellers don't do that. So a lot of sellers just follow a routine and they don't really try to improve things. And that's why one seller does a lot better than the next one. So,
okay. Do you create the Amazon listing before the products even get to the warehouse? Yes,
you have
right?
to.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to, because you have to create a shipping plan when you're sending it to your supplier for them to ship the goods.
Okay. When you create a listing, we talked about like the keywords and better photos and bullet points, all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about insurance. Do you insure every shipment? No, you just, do you or you don't? You don't, right?
No.
Okay, so no insurance on the shipments. If something's going wrong, you're calling PayPal or whatever, and you're getting your money back, right?
Yeah, so the nice thing about PayPal is you have double the protection. So one, you call PayPal, he says so-and-so went wrong. PayPal, usually 99% of the time, they give your money back right away. Your second option is the credit card company. I don't know if you've ever called your credit card company to get anything back, but the credit card company does not care what's on the website that you paid for, what kind of terms it was. Just because you're their customer, they will refund you the money, and it's up to the other party to prove otherwise. And for them to prove otherwise is such a it's like a 3 to 6 month process for them to send in paperwork to Visa or MasterCard, and you're basically winning, is what I'm saying. It's really hard for the other party to try to take money from you or take advantage of you.
Okay. Okay, so the 7 days of going live with your product, do you have a launch formula, or everything's ready to go the second it hits, right? And it should be at the velocity that you already researched, correct?
Yeah, so right off the bat, what you want to do is you want to spend money on PPC. Once you have those reviews, you want to start doing those giveaways so you can match the velocity to your top sellers onto the first page.
Explain this PPC thing to the people out there that might be beginners in the feed. What does that mean when you say match the PPC and all that?
So PPC is pay-per-click. A lot of people, what they do is initially when they get their product, they want to run a pay-per-click through Amazon services, and Amazon finds keywords for you to that's going to generate you sales. And you want to start that right off the bat so you can kind of see which keywords work well for your products and which ones don't. So you can start removing the ones that are costing you money, and you want to keep the keywords that are generating you money. And the whole goal with keywords is for you to keep the ones that do and maximize your budget, because they're going to generate you more sales for it, right? So if you find one keyword is generating you $1,000 for you spending $50 on, you're going to increase the budget on that one keyword so it can generate you $2,000 for $100, right? So that's what you want to focus on.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
And with a keyword, is it just people are bidding on it to own it? Is that kind of how it goes?
Exactly. So people are bidding on it, and there is a suggested bid. And for you, for example, we'll say if you want to show up onto the first page for the keyword camera bulb, Amazon suggests you to be $1. So I always put $1.05. You know, I just do an extra 5 cents just so I make sure that I'm always showing for that keyword on the first page. So then it becomes a competition between you and the other sellers who can, find which other keywords are as good. So you show up on the first page for other keywords as well. And that's how you get your velocity up. Exactly.
Okay. Very cool. Well. We actually blasted right through this outline, right? And I thought this was, Rob, you're an interesting guest. Definitely a different style of guest that we've ever had on the Green Room Hangout. I want to take 1 second real quick to where you can tell your YouTube channel out to all the people that are watching right now. What is that YouTube channel? How can they subscribe? Should they subscribe? What are they going to learn when they get to your channel?
So my YouTube channel is Steps to Success FBA. If you just search Steps to Success FBA, my link should be up. Steve is also going to put a link below, I'm sure, once he uploads it down. Exactly. So you can also reach out to me on Facebook. I have a group. I think we have over 2,300 members on Facebook. So it's called Steps to Success, again, FBA. And you can message me if you have any questions regarding FBA. You want to get started. You don't know what you should be doing. So reach out to me. We have a lot of members helping each other out. So you can find me on Facebook or YouTube. And make sure you subscribe.
Okay. One last thing for the feed. Guys, did you learn something on this show? A Y or an N? Just type it in right now. I want to hang around for 1 minute to see, because I definitely would have typed a Y at this point. But very interesting guest, man.
Before we end this, I recommend everyone to get started on FBA. When you start generating the profits, if you follow what I'm telling you, start scaling your Amazon FBA business and use some of that profit and start investing in real estate. Try to have multiple streams of income. Amazon FBA is a terrific business to be in, as well as real estate. Real estate is one of the best ways to build wealth. So make sure you check out both, because you have a lot of tax advantages. No matter which country you're in, try to own as much real estate as you can. The land is fixed, and you're gonna become extremely wealthy if you hold on to the properties long term.
Okay. Hey, some Kiyosaki stuff is pouring out of his mouth right now. I can hear it. He likes control. He likes control. It's like physical. It's there. You see it. It's yours.
Exactly.
Right?
Same with FBA. You're selling a physical product. Same with real estate. It's something that you can see, you can feel, you can touch. So that's what I like. I'm not a big fan of cryptocurrency. I'm not a big fan of stocks, just because there are a lot of ways. Like, you have regulations from the government, you have regulations, from big hedge funds, banks, whatever the case may be. With real estate and Amazon FBA, it's kind of fixed. It's really hard for one person to come and control, how much sales you're gonna do or whatever the case may be. So that's why I like real estate and Amazon.
Very awesome. All right, man. Well, Rob, we're going to try to interview you again in maybe a year or two. We're going to see how much more crazy you've become with your, your private label business, maybe some more investments, and hopefully some more toilet paper in your future, man. Toilet paper, what are murals, dude? Toilet paper murals for the world. All right, that's pretty cool, man. So, but yeah, you can find him at that YouTube channel. Raken will link it on the top line of this video, and I will link it when it becomes my video on my channel. I'll put it on the top line as well. But give him a subscribe on his channel. Go learn some stuff, and we'll see you on the next Hangout. Anything else, Raken?
No, that's it, guys. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the Bonafide Hustler as well. The guy who's running the show, that's Chris, Bonafide Hustler. He's got a great YouTube channel. Check him out, Steps to Success. But yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks, Chris, for hosting. Rob,
thank you, guys.
An awesome guest. Thank you so much, guys.
Enjoy your night, guys.
I'm keeping a Christmas trip all January. I'm just letting everybody know.